Hello, and welcome to Plugging Along, a stream dedicated to Lotro plugins. Last time on Plugging Along, we dug into the EffectsList events. MinstrelBuff is a plugin that was combining effect added, effect removed, and effects cleared into one handler, and I wondered if we could do better by separating them out, and it turns out, maybe. Ballads were pretty easy, but anthems may require more bookkeeping. So this time we're going to pick up where we left off. First, we'll review how things are supposed to work, and then we'll try to fix anthem detection. As always, feel free to jump into chat with your thoughts and questions. This week, Lotro is celebrating its 15th anniversary, possibly this whole month, but definitely this week. And so I believe Eldoleth might be doing a giveaway later in the stream. But for now, let's get started. First, let me go ahead and switch over to my desktop view. And then we'll go ahead and pull up the plugin manager. As we can see, we have MinstrelBuff here. And when I load this, it's going to load the window in the upper left-hand corner. We'll just go ahead and drag that down to where it's a little bit more visible. And we'll move the soliloquy tracker as well. Okay. Now that that's moved, minstrels. Minstrels are great. I love playing a minstrel, but they can be a little confusing. First of all, you have ballads, and in order to make a ballad show up here, I'm going to switch over into resonance stance. That converts my major ballad into a healing that can be done even without a target, as we have very few of those here on the top of the prancing pony. Oh, it looks like we still have some debug statements from last week. So, ballads have this fun effect where they say they will expire if out of combat for 9 seconds, which is a bit ambiguous and not the full story. But regardless, what we did last time was try to pay attention to ballads specifically instead of recalculating everything that should show up on this window every time the effects list changed. And so far, that's going pretty well. I was playing with it most of the week, and aside from the fact that I had left the anthems in a broken state, everything seemed to be going well. So, Eldoleth is heading out to grab lunch. Awesome. Well, when Eldoleth comes back, we'll have one of those. All right, and there is newest news. Awesome. Thanks so much. Let's see, update 33 release notes, and oh yes, if you are one of the people who managed to log in between the time update 33 went live and they had to bring it down in order to deal with a problem with the Runekeeper satchels, then you'll want to click on that second link there. It'll detail what you need to do to get your stuff on the character you want it to go on. Cool. Okay, so let's go ahead and pull up. I'm using Visual Studio Code, and I can't recommend it highly enough, the Lotro Api Extension by Lunar Water, which is just delightful. In addition to Lua syntax highlighting, it understands the specifics of the Lotro API, and it's just great. Eldoleth notes that in that second link, they're also giving people who had previously purchased Collector's Edition the goodies as well. Awesome. So it sounds like there's some good stuff to look into there for anyone who's curious about that. Okay, so I'm going to close down the extension view here and slide that file view a little bit under my head so we can see more of the actual stuff. Okay, so we had something that seems to work. Oh, where's my source control? Just a moment. Okay, and we can see the in-work changes that we had done last week. Apologies, I have a tickle in my throat again. Okay, so we had modified MinstrelBuff so that instead of passing everything through, in fact, it might be a little bit easier to use an external comparison tool. I prefer Beyond Compare, but whatever works for you. Let's see, where were we? All right, So we had an effects change callback. Oh yes, we instead of defining a single function that would pass everything through to refresh effect display, we defined 3 functions: added, removed, and cleared, and used those in place of that single function. Then, in those functions, we were able to do what we wanted to do. So effect added, effect removed, we could play around with that. And we can see we have ballad stuff, but we don't have anthem stuff yet. And then effects cleared, I don't know if that ever gets called. And if it does, I think it's safe to just throw your hands up and say, I don't know what's happening, redraw it all. So that's fine. We can just leave it just like that. Okay. So those are the changes in main. Buff window itself, we needed to add some new functionality. Before, main was in charge of all of the drawing within buff window, which is a little bit of separation concerns that I just don't like. I really would prefer buff window to be in charge of what buff window is doing, and main just, if it has to do anything, just say, hey, I got this chat message. Would you like to do something with it? Baz in chat says, I've never found what effects cleared does either. Yeah, the Lua API is really interesting because you'll see stuff in there and little edge cases like that. It's like, was this used 10 years ago and then they stopped using it? Did they put it in on the theory that maybe it would be used someday and it never gets called? Or is it called all the time, but in some edge case, because maybe it only happens on hunters, right? Like, I never play hunters, so I would never see that. I'm not sure. Anyway, in buff window, we went ahead and added a ballad shift and ballad added with the intent of saying this is a new ballad, and the ballad shift just being a helper function to move things to the left. Because ballads work in a first in, first out FIFO queue, where whenever you have a 4th ballad, you get a 4th one, and then the first one expires, and they all shift over by 1. So we have a little hidden 4th spot for that new 4th one to appear, and then we just slide things over when that expiration happens. So we only see 3 of them visually. Okay. So that's where we were, and I'm just I like to review what was happening, just to kind of figure out what am I going to do today. Get my brain kind of booted up a little bit. Okay. Can I get on top of this chimney? Nope, that chimney is transparent. Oh well. Okay. Here we go. Visual Studio Code with Lunar Water's extension. I do have a to-do file here. Just a lightweight way of tracking what we're doing. So what did I have in mind last week? Anthem, similar. Add to the first spot, then the second. But anthems can come from other minstrels. So we still want to sort them by start time plus duration. No. What can we do with effects? This is a great time to pull up our API documentation. So under turbine.gameplay, we'll see effect. And in here, we're going to see duration and start time. So if we subtract current time from start time, we can figure out how much duration is left. Cool. In fact, I bet MinstrelBuff is already doing that because it was already sorting things. But you've got me curious now. Okay, hang on a sec. Okay, no duration, but we have a get start time. Oh, that's interesting. So it was sorting on start time, but I think this plugin might definitely predates the current legendary items, but does it predate all legendary items? Or at least that part of the logic? So, Lotro interface, let's pop on over here to lotrointerface.com and just look at the release history for MinstrelBuff. It's a singular MinstrelBuff in Lotro interface, but it's MinstrelBuffs in the plugin directory, but not in the plugin name. So if you do one and not the other, just bounce around until you find it. Okay, so the first version of MinstrelBuff. Oh, interesting. Oh, no, okay, that was a patch. What about this one? When did this one come out? Well, it just says version 1. All right. 2011. Well, that had to have been after Legendary Items. So this may have been an oversight. I don't know when the... oh man, I'm gonna forget all the terminology for the old Legendary Items. But the improvement to Anthem Duration. I feel like maybe that needs to be taken into time, because the start time for sorting, which is what it was doing, it was sorting the anthems by start time, but wouldn't you need to know the duration as well? Well, let's go into buff window and see what are we doing with Anthem here. All right, we have an Anthem time display. Awesome. We get Anthem time display, even better. Show Anthem. We set the duration. So the timer bar should be correct. Baz says in the chat, if all anthems have the same duration, start time would be the same as duration sorting. That is true. All anthems of a single minstrel have the same duration. But minstrels can apply traceries. Now, I don't know why anyone would not have this tracery, but if you come out into your legendary item, and let's see, must be on my legendary book. Okay, Anthem Duration. There's a tracery, Anthem Duration, and there was a corresponding version of this for Legendary Item version 1, right? I think it was even longer. So depending on the level of your Anthem Duration tracery, you're going to get a different duration for your anthems. And in general, you have the most powerful version of an anthem on you from wherever. So for instance, Anthem of War is a very handy one. If you have a tracery that has improved your Anthem of War, and you and another minstrel both have activated Anthem of War, yours, if it's stronger, should be the one that applies to everyone. And so your duration matters. And so that's what we're looking at, is the duration of each anthem, because some of the anthems can come from other minstrels. And I mean, in an ideal world, you would have a tank and 5 minstrels, right? One of them healing and the other 4 being DPS. And so I guess there's other classes out there. I don't know. And so yeah, you can be getting anthem effects from different minstrels, and not all of them. Some of them are personal only. Anthem of the Third Age, just no. That says applied to the Fellowship. Hang on. Applied to the Fellowship. I thought there was at least one anthem that only applies to yourself. Either way. Yeah, so I think this was actually a lacking in the original logic that was only sorting by start time. When ideally, we're trying to sort them by which one expires soonest. So that's something we can maybe think about improving here. Okay, in fact, let me put that in the to-do item here. Okay, so note, current logic sorts by start time, but correct logic would sort by remaining time. Different minstrels. Oh, I already said that before. Okay, awesome. But in general, when an anthem expires, you would then expect it, and if you are sorting by duration, you would expect it to expire left first, lowest duration next. Okay. Well, let's play around with that. So it might be useful to have a helper function for getting the remaining time. Which would take the current time minus the start time, duration minus current time minus start time, I think. Let's find out. Let's do a little quick helper. So in buff window, do we have a good place for a helper method? Ballad added, ballad shift, new functions. Okay, ballad. Anthem, new anthem functions. Awesome. And here we can go ahead and say function buff window. And naming things for me is always hard. Buff window, get remaining time. And we know we're going to get an effect. Awesome. So we are able to figure out what the current time is by calling turbine.engine.something something. Get game time. Possibly we won't get local time though. Let's see. Delta minus previous. Get game time might work. Yeah. Let's check that. So local current time equals turbine.engine dot get game time. And do we have any documentation on that? Relative game time in seconds. All right. Local elapsed time equals current time minus effect get start time. Excellent. And then it would be helpful to think my way through this. Okay, we know how much elapsed time, and so we know what the duration was. Local time remaining equals, we want that effect get duration. Hopefully that's also in seconds. Let's see, do we know? Minus elapsed time. Now, that all seems plausible in my head, but I feel like it needs some testing. We're going to come back in here and just check get duration and get start time. None of those have units, so we're going to play around with that. So, besides also doing a return time remaining, let's go ahead and do some testing here. So, we'll have turbine.shell.writeLine, and let's see, current elapsed and finally remaining. Great. So we have a long and unwieldy debug statement here, but ideally, if we load and reload that, great. That looks correct on the code side of things, but we don't have anything calling it yet. So, since main still does everything, let's go ahead and let's see. Oh, you know, that's gonna be funny. Oh, an effects editor, we can do that. Let's see. We just have to remember how this was happening. In effects added, if we can go ahead and just do that for each effect in buff window, that'll be fine. Let's see. Do we have a get effect? How was main doing this before? And refresh effects display. Show effect that. All right, let's take a look at show effect and see how that was working. All right, get effect display index. All right, well, we know it's an effect display. Awesome. So in effect add, we're just going to go ahead and have some debug code. We'll just mark it that way. And then go ahead and for I equals 1 to 3 is fine. Do end. Well, hey, Eldeleth is back. Still waiting on food in the microwave. Well, that's very nice of you. So Eldeleth was offering to run a giveaway for something, probably a cosmetic pet. I don't remember what it was. Oh, possibly Lotro points. So Eldeleth, once Eldeleth opens the giveaway, I think if you type !giveaway, you'll be entered. And then the ones of you at your keyboard can compete for 100 Lotro points. Okay, looks like that's open. This is a pretty low-key stream, so I think we'll probably leave that open for 5 or 10 minutes if that's good for you, Eldeleth. And I'll just remember to say something about it every once in a while. So if you are near your keyboard, go ahead and type !giveaway in chat, and you'll be automatically entered in the raffle. You'll get a response from Moobot to confirm your entry. Hey, several of you are at your keyboard. Awesome. Okay, so we have a, we need to do that on buff window, don't we? That is a very correct squiggly line. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and just temporarily grab that effects display out. Since we have such a lack of separation of concerns, we'll go ahead and use it for test purposes. Now, we know that's an effect display. That sounds like the kind of thing that might actually be built in. So we're going to come into UI Lotro, see effect display, and see what functionality we have. Hopefully we have get effect. Yes. All right. So we can use get effect on that. Local effect equals WND get effect. Awesome. And then we can go ahead and call self.buff window. And what did we call that? Get remaining time effect. There we go. Now, buff window should be a little bit cautious. So if effect equals nil, then return end. And that'll prevent us from trying to do anything untoward. Okay, let's give that a try. Let's see if any of that code is legitimate. Okay, we're loaded. Awesome. Well, that was interesting. Well, I gotta say, I'm confused that we're getting values for things that shouldn't be there. Oh, but maybe not, because we don't actually clear them out, do we? Okay. How does buff window currently remember where things are? I'm not sure. Maybe we know. Buff window added. All right. Next ballad effect place. Okay. So we probably just want to use that. So instead of 3, we'll go ahead and do self.buffWindow. And that is next ballad effect place. But that's the next one. I wonder if we can do that -1. Let's try that. Well, that wasn't quite what I was expecting. That's okay. All right, so we're seeing remaining is a super large number. So obviously, That's not correct. Oh, I see more people are entering exclamation point giveaway. Excellent. Although says 15 minutes on it. Beautiful. And Beth says it is. I think you're agreeing with me saying I'm doing something wrong, but I've forgotten which thing I just said I was doing wrong. So I'm going to come back in here and take a look at this. So one thing that I was concerned about is if game time was the correct thing to be checking against. But now that I think about it, I think Anthems already had some information. So set duration, get duration, set start time, get start time. Oh, right, they only, remaining time is massive on those effects as they do not have a duration. Oh, interesting. Right, because they don't time out. Because I'm only looking at anthems. Of course. Of course, of course. All right, good point. Thank you, Baz. Foolishly, I was writing this against ballads, even though ballads don't expire in the traditional sense. They don't have a duration. They're just automatically canceled by the engine. So this was never going to work. Neat. I can see why they were sorted by the start time. I mean, that would always work for ballads. That would be fine. And for anthems, you just kind of ignore the fact that different minstrels can have different times, and then it just sort of works most of the time. All right. Well, we have this helper function. If game time is, oops. I really just wanted to show that. Okay, so game time. That looks like a reasonable number. What I should have gotten was effect start time. Okay. So, current time, effect start time, that's what I'm more curious about. And then effect duration, I think I'm more interested in that as well. So let's start this back up and get that information just to see if these numbers are reasonable. Okay, so current. Okay, yes, those numbers are very close together. So current, so we have effect get start time and turbine engine get game time. Those seem to be operating in the same time space, number of seconds since server restarted or whatever. So that sounds awesome. Then we have duration. As Baz was pointing out in chat, duration is going to be a huge number because ballads don't technically expire. In fact, if you put a ballad up on, we can see here, there's no expiration clock ticking down like you would expect. It just says, if out of combat for 9 seconds. And there we go. Okay. Awesome. So those numbers look plausible, except that duration note, if you call this on a ballad, you will not get well, no, okay, yeah, ballad, your time remaining will be, max. Ballads don't expire in the normal way. Okay, we'll just call it that. In fact, we could future-proof ourselves, get remaining anthem time. And then the fact that I was using this in a ballad will be a little bit more obviously wrong. All right, get remaining anthem time. Yeah, and the fact that I was using this on a ballad with an anthem that'll call out in the future. Thank you, Little Redhead, for pointing out. Yes, welcome to anyone who is just joining the stream. This is a stream that focuses on plugins, both from inside the game, using plugins, but usually also looking at the code behind the plugins. Please do feel free to ask questions as we go along. Today, if you are just joining us, I am focusing on the MinstrelBuff plugin, which is super handy for me as a minstrel. Makes me feel like I'm almost competent at the role. And we're trying to look under the covers as it is. The plugin works great, but in order to do what it does, every time your effects list changes, something gets added, something removed, it pretty much recalculates everything that's going on here in the UI. And our goal last week, and this week, maybe next week as well, is to say, do we have to redraw the whole thing, or can we be a little bit smarter about it? Well, Kimi in chat asks, what is the difference between a plugin and an add-on? I don't think there's a meaningful difference within Lord of the Rings Online. I will say there are two different complementary ways of modifying your user experience. If you go into UI settings and scroll on down a bit, I hope it's UI settings. Where is it? Aha! You're going to see a current user skin. And skinning is a thing that you can do to change how the windows look, what's going on with your system. I don't tend to use skins a lot. Little Redhead in chat can answer more questions on that than I can, if there are any. But skinning is a thing that affects how things look, but not how things work. And then, oh, awesome. Thank you for putting the link to the UI stuff there, Little Redhead. And then if you are in-game, plugins can change some sort of behavior of the game or give you extra functionality on top of the whatever comes standard with the game. So for instance, normally a minstrel doesn't see how long it will be until their ballads expire. The normal is 9 seconds out of combat. But of course, I've been out of combat for half an hour now. And so in this case, it's the plugin knows that in this situation, it means 9 seconds after that first ballad triggered, they'll all go away. And that's very useful because by default, that just happens. And as a minstrel, having a visual reflection of that, I found that super helpful. Maori in chat says plugins are nice. I agree. That's why I stream about them. So if you're just joining us or have been away from your keyboard, don't forget to hit ! giveaway to join the giveaway for 100 Lotro points. Little Redhead points out, UI skins are not plugins, different things. Absolutely, they are complementary systems. You have skins which affect how things look, and plugins which give you different or extra functionality. They're kind of orthogonal. Okay, so we have tested our get remaining anthem time function. It looks plausible. So now we can figure out what we're going to do with anthems. Now the easiest thing we can do is put any anthem we get into the first spot and remove any anthem that we remove from the first spot, and that would actually work for a single anthem. So maybe I'll do that just to make sure I know how to make anthems appear and disappear. If I'm going to do that though, I think I'll go ahead and remove my book. Currently my anthems last for 2 minutes. Let's go ahead and pull that off so that now my anthems only last for 1 minute. That'll be easier to test. Ally in chat says, how do you get UI skins? Little Redhead is answering that. There's a link just above from Moobot, which should get you started. Most of the skin pages will have instructions on how to download, where to put them, and then give that a try and let us know how that goes. And Ally says, also, how do you move things around on your screen? Excellent question. In your key mappings, let's see, what is it called? Nope. There's a common keystroke. It's usually Control \. I'm trying to remember what it's called in here. But the effect of it is that all of the various UI elements that you can move will appear with a little drag bar on the top. And many plugins will also respond to that. Let's see. Is there a keyboard? Aha! Reposition UI. Excellent. So reposition UI is the keyboard shortcut. It defaults to Control \, the key right above your Enter key on US keyboard layouts. Kimmy says for them it's Control plus the octathorpe. Excellent. That may be default on some systems, or they may have changed it. German keyboard. Awesome. So when in doubt, go into your key mappings. Let me get rid of all those things. Search for reposition UI and do whatever it is there, or change it to something you're liking. I like Control \, because for me it's pretty memorable and I'm very unlikely to hit it accidentally. And it's not a problem to hit it, except now all my windows want to be moved instead of clicked on, so it's not ideal to have that happen in combat. Awesome. Well, thanks for chiming in there. Okay. So, previously, main.lua was doing all of the positioning of anthems for buff window. So if we come in down here to the refresh effect display function, we're going to see how were effects handled. So first, we got the effects, we sorted them, and now we want to go ahead and we'll need to sort out serious business if we're getting rid of this function completely. That's a thing to remember. I'm going to put that in the to-do file so I don't have to remember it. Handle serious business. Don't forget to. Awesome. Now I don't have to think about that. Okay, so Anthem, we have if show anthems is true, then we're going to do stuff. Oh man, I want to redo how this is done. Okay, so if this is a valid anthem, mostly I'm dealing with not fixed. So let me come into that. All right, so if this is a valid anthem effect, then okay, so that's the first thing is, are we doing that? Self is valid effect name. Okay, cool. We're already have that call in place. So get anthem position. Well, I'm curious, what was get anthem effect position doing? Oh, I see. Oh, they've done something weird here. I'm so used to the first conditional, A being the being the likely thing, and B not being if something is false. Oh, and Odalef has announced 1 minute remaining on the giveaway for 100 Lotro points. Enter !giveaway if you would like to be a part of that. We're probably doing 1 winner per stream, but this could be you. Okay. Back to my confusion. I'm so used to things being asserted in the positive. If is anthem fixed, and what they've done here is if is anthem fixed is false, which I would be used to saying if is anthem fixed, do that here, and otherwise do the false stuff down here. So this just threw me for a minute. Aldolef is still making lunch. That is a long lunch, or long preparation lunch. Okay, so if we don't have fixed positions for anthems, and that's interesting. If anthem effect places less than 6, interesting. Put a pin in it. And if it's a valid anthem effect, that feels backwards. In fact, this whole branch, it feels like we should have a single check. So that's something we can think about. Yes, and here's my comment. Maybe buff window could do this. So self buff window, show anthem, anthem effect place. And then anthem effect place equals anthem effect place plus 1. Okay. And this is a local variable that is just starting at 1. Because remember, we throw everything away. We hide everything. After this, we'll go through and hide all the anthems that weren't active. And it's a different way of doing things, definitely. So what we want to do is probably similar to before, where we added a new pair of functions, ballad added and ballad removed. We're going to go ahead and do anthem added, anthem removed. That makes sense to me. Okay. I recently got a replacement keyboard, or a new keyboard, and it's supposed to be quieter. Little Redhead thinks it is, anyway. But it may be that it won't come through nearly so piercingly on stream as well. Toronto says hi in chat. Hello. Okay, so we have an effect list function which is telling us that an effect has been added, and we know that it's an anthem. Oh, in fact, let me go ahead and give us some textual output into the standard chat so we can see that happening. So we're in effect added. Let's go ahead and do okay, effect added anthem. And let's go ahead and do the same thing down here. Effect removed, and it's just anthem. And what was tell me more? That sounds like a little bit of a debug function. All right, just some basic information. Lovely. Kermite says, have to adjust mic and OBS audio stuff to fix that. Many streamers place their mic near the keyboard, so of course the keyboard gets picked up. I actually don't mind if you hear me typing. I mean, this is a stream that involves me typing a fair amount, and that lets you know, hey, characters are appearing on stream. I just don't want it to be like overwhelming compared to my voice. And so for me, the mic is the lavalier is closer to my face than it is my keyboard. But you know, I never know what other people are hearing. Okay, so we've made some changes to a debug statement. I'm going to go ahead and go back into the plugin manager, unload and reload, and then we can go ahead and use the cry of the chorus to immediately get our 3 ballads, and then we can start adding in these anthems. Okay, and we can see that those anthems have come into chat, and they will last for a minute. Unfortunately, that's the minimum duration, so it makes it a little bit hard to do live testing. Now, this is a great chance to extol the virtues of having debug functionality, where I could maybe come into options and say, you know, pretend my anthems have gone away, just, you know, show me what that would look like, or pretend that they have another minute on them. Adolith has closed the giveaway and has drawn a winner. Aha, if you are in chat, go ahead and let Adolith know. And we'll give a minute for them to get back. Aha, they have chimed in. So Adolith will do their magic, texting you, I assume, the code that you can redeem in-game. When you go to redeem it, you can pop open your Lotro store with the button to the bottom right of your character display here. And in the Lotro store, you just go to redeem code. And then in redeem code, you'll go ahead and copy paste that code. Don't try to type it. It's all too easy to mistake ones for I's and O's for zeros, and it's just much easier to copy, paste, done. Okay. That being said, we have seen the effects added and the effects removed. Let's see. Says, thanks for the info. You're very welcome. I never know who already knows the information about that, so I figured just throw it out there. Anyone who's new to coupon codes, and there's always a weekly code active. I don't know if MoveOut has a command for that. I think it does. But there's always a weekly code that you can use to get some sort of small item for free in-game, just for being an active player and keeping an eye out on social media. Let's see. Aha! So, Lotro Api for the week, and track it down. So if I were to go ahead and copy that, pop open my Lotro store, come on in over to redeem code. And MoveBot does have a command for everything. Thanks, Eldoleth. Redeem code. If I were to go ahead and paste that in, and hit apply, get the cool shing shing sound, and I have a tome of tracking. Awesome, let's do it. Tome of tracking box. I open it up, I get a tome of tracking, and bam! Oh. How? Okay, so once you've opened it out of the box, you can use it over and over and until the 5 minutes expired. That's handy. Fun. Okay. I often run with a hunter, and I am spoiled for choice when it comes to tracking. It's like, hey, little redhead, is any beasts? Is any evil people? Any sign of, an orc? All right, Eldoleth has sent a whisper to Aha. Awesome. Thank you so much, Eldoleth. Have a great lunch. Okay, so we have our information here. That tells us... Now, I'm curious, tell me more. Where is that getting the index from? Effect get start, get name... Get effect from effect callback. Oh, of course, yes. We have a little helper that, right. Now, having to remember where we were. In the effects list, I believe if something's being added, we're not told the position, but when something's removed, we are, or we're given the effect that's being removed. Delightful. Okay. So, in buff window, we have an anthem added and an anthem removed. And you know, I was talking earlier about how the start time isn't a great metric, but it's so simple to sort by the start time. Just a simple integer comparison. And most minstrels are probably going to be running with the maximum anthem duration, probably. So maybe we can ignore it for right now. We can circle back around if we feel like we need to get a finer grained sorting. But we could not worry about that because the timer bar underneath the anthem is based on the actual duration of that anthem. Oh, we're not showing it. Of course. It is based on the actual duration of that anthem. So if they were out of order, that would probably be fine. Let's see. Chromite says not really in red. I'm not sure, Chromite, if you're referring to something I did or hunter tracking. Let's see. Fluffy Burrito says, I'm sorry if this is the wrong place to ask, but I was wondering how bad dual wielding is compared to two-handed for champion. I know two-handed is better, but not by how much. Interesting. Oh, thank you, Corinne. I'll get back to that. Fluffy, I wouldn't say this is the wrong place to ask. I would say I'm the wrong person to ask. I technically have a champion, but that's not a character I've ever really played. So I would be able to like hit a couple of buttons, but not give you any sort of good information. There might be some other people in chat who have more familiarity with champion, but I would not give good advice except by chance on that. Thanks for asking that. Chromite says, in Redline, with the new minstrel changes, you don't really want to waste points in Anthem Duration. Interesting. Now, points or tracery? Because you can increase Anthem Duration by class trait points, but you can also do it by tracery. Oh, and Finian has an opinion on champion. Awesome. Thanks for chiming in there. So what I was mentioning earlier... Oh, and Chromite has suggested Lotro HQ, which is a very handy website for some basic builds for different classes, which of course is not mandatory, but you can kind of start from there and see what works for you. Fluffy says, Lotro HQ says two-handed is better, quote unquote, but doesn't say how much, which is why I came here. Oh well. I would say, unless you are looking at for the very tippity top performance, what feels right to you, what is engaging, what is fun, what suits your playstyle is far more important than if something is marginally better than another. And if you are trying to play at the very highest level of performance with raiders trying to tackle the hardest challenges in a game, they'll probably have some strong opinions as well, much stronger than any I could have. So... Yeah, as we see in chat, yeah, Cormay says, yeah, Metro says it's better, that's why it's there. Fluffy, if it's 20% difference, that's gigantic, but if it's 3 to 5%, it shouldn't matter too much. And Cormay points out, if you care about min-maxing or getting the very best performance out of it, that's why people use it. Yeah, so otherwise, yeah, it would be weird to expect a huge difference, but of course, SSG is tweaking classes. It feels like with every release, something changes. So you could get a large discrepancy, but it's probably not currently. And yeah, if you're doing high-end raids, check with your fellow raiders. Their opinion probably matters a lot more than mine. And if you're not doing high-end raids, do what you will. You know, and try them both out. But ultimately, if one of those styles appeals to you more, like I love being a screaming minstrel, and so you know I do that a lot. Okay, yeah. So there is a trait in here that extends your ballad, your anthem time, isn't there? Extended anthems. So yeah, I wouldn't necessarily spend the trait points on that, but I did spend the tracery on that because I find it convenient not to have to worry about anthems every minute, but every 2 minutes. But I would agree that there might be better traceries to use at this level. It's I don't think I spent many resources on that. I hope I didn't. 60. Okay. I could have bought it. I probably got it as a random drop in school or library. All right. Chromite says traceries are a more given for Anthem Duration than the traits. Yeah, it's expensive. If you're red line or blue line minstrel, then you're talking about 10 trait points just for the anthems, and another 10 to get up there in the first place. So 20 trait points, and you know the improved Inspire fellows is fine. I don't know about Shield Focus, but you know spending 1 on Anthem of Composure and then well 2 really, and then another 8 on an improved Inspire fellows, and then another 10 on extended anthems. It's a hard sell. I wouldn't do it at this on Treebeard because we don't have that many class trait points. Chromite agrees. Most red and blue minstrels will want the Anthem Duration tracery. Yeah, it's nice. You know, it's one less thing to do every minute. Well, 3 of those things to do. Maybe 2. Okay, so we have Anthem added and Anthem removed, some new helper functions. And you know what? We can kind of call those with impunity, right? We can just go ahead and say self.buff window, ballad, Anthem removed effect. And we've already seen with the output that we're getting things that are correct. They're anthems and we're only getting anthems. So I think we're pretty good without that specific debug statement. We're going to go ahead and comment it out with the double hyphen. And also do a self.buff window. Anthem added. And we'll pass in that effect here as well. And we'll comment that out. But since I had forgotten that we had a tell me more function, we're going to go ahead and leave that right there. All right. Oh, Toronto asks, is there any way we can turn off auto camera turn to targets automatically? Yeah, absolutely. That is one that I don't like at all. Let's see. Let's see, target. Yeah, so there is a toggle target lock on mode shortcut that is by default bound to something like X, I want to say. And I believe this is the one. And so it's default bound to something like X, which is really easy to accidentally hit. And then you're just like, and then you target something else and you're like, if that's not the one, then there's a different one. Yeah. So Toronto, yeah, I have unbound that one because I felt like the very, very few times I might want something like that on did not justify all the times it would turn itself on because I accidentally hit the key and then I'd be like, no, what did I do? So let me know if that works for you. I'm pretty sure that's the name of the keybind. Okay, so we have Ballad added, we have Anthem added. Great. So if we ignore the fact that anthems can have different durations for now, then anthems also are going to work in either fixed mode or first in, first out mode. And so how do we know if is anthem fixed? Self settings get fixed anthem positions. Cool. Now I'm curious if Buff Windows knows about this at all yet. It might not. No, because main, again, is groveling into the internals of Buff Window, and so Buff Window doesn't actually know anything about whether it is in fixed anthem position or not, which is just the most delightful thing. Let's go ahead and come on into settings and take a look at this. How are settings done here? Okay, so there's a notification system here in place when something changes. And I'm wondering if theme is involved with that. All right, theme changed. All right. Okay, theme changed. Great. Let's find out where that is. Oh, Toronto says it didn't work. It should be something else, probably. Well, let me come back in here to key mapping, and let me actually just set that to X. Well, it's Q on my keyboard. Oh no! Oh, yeah, so when I mapped that to X and then I pressed X, when I clicked on Erling here, I automatically, my camera automatically swings towards her. That's what I understood your problem to be. But if you have a different problem, then that would not be the right fix for it. In the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and turn that back off because it drives me bonkers. And you do that by hitting this little red circle with a line through it. All right. You said turn off auto camera turn to target automatically. Yeah. Let me know. Was that what you were seeing? Because that's the thing I turned off. And again, it's pretty easy to test. Come on in here, target. Go ahead and select different targets, and then go ahead and turn that option on, and your camera should automatically face them, even if you try to drag it away, which is probably the part that annoys me the most about it. I'm sure it's good for someone. It is not good for me. That's raising my blood pressure just looking at that. All right, target. That's a big no. Okay. All right. All right, so we have a theme change. Let's see who knows about that. Toronto says when you select a mob, it turns them automatically whenever you move your screen. Yep, that's exactly what we were just seeing here. Well, Toronto, you say it's normal. It is normal if you are in that mode. So search your key mappings for toggle target lock-on mode. Whatever that key is, press it. And one time to turn it off and see if it stops happening. And if it does stop happening, great, that's how to do it. And either keep the key or not, your choice. You can unbind it if you don't want it. But that's how to get out of that mode, is to press that key again. Okay. So who's using theme to change? Buff window. Theme changed. We just do a restart. That's delightful. And then the options window is setting that. Oh, thanks, Lotro Api, for redoing that in textual format. Okay. What I want to do is buff window. Buff window is already looking at theme changed. Awesome. So instead of checking fixed Anthem positions, we just want is Anthem fixed to be updated when theme changes. Awesome. And then we can check, if theme fixed anthems, yeah. Great. And what does restart do? Restart calls stop and then start. That's delightful. Where do we take a look at theme? Self settings and get theme. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and cache off is Anthem fixed. And we can then assume, because this is going to get updated anytime the theme is updated, we can use this anytime we need that. So fixed, we could go ahead and do that right here. Instead of theme fixed anthems, we could go ahead and use our local one. Either one is fine. But importantly, we can use that in our new functions here. So anthem add, anthem moved. So the first thing we're going to do is if is anthem fixed, then else end. Same thing down here. If is anthem fixed, then but of course that should be self. That should be self dot is anthem fixed. Thank you, little squiggles. Then else end. Okay. So that's sort of the core. If anthems are fixed, then we don't have a lot to worry about. In fact, we can kind of copy the logic here that we use. If anthem fixed is true in this elf branch, we can go ahead and get the position and show anthem. Now, I don't know what show anthem border is supposed to do. That's interesting. But you know what? Let's go ahead and take all of this code and replicate it where we actually need it. So anthem added, if anthem fixed. Let's take a look at this. Now, we have a local anthem effect position. One of these days, I'd like to go through here and kind of clean up. We don't need the word effect everywhere, but I mean, it is an effect, but anyway. So get anthem effect position. Now that's actually a helper function. And if that's only used in this one place, yep, then we can go ahead and move that over here. Now, note, original, oops, original is in main.lua, needs to be removed from there. Now, I'm going to make this note to myself because I don't want to break the original functionality in main.lua quite yet. And so I'm going to leave it duplicated for now, though I do need to change the class name. All right. So now we have a get anthem effect. Oh, but we don't have an effect name. All right. So let's go ahead and grab an effect name. We probably have that somewhere. Kimmy points out that yes, Toronto can change that in options. There's also an option for not moving to a target when right-clicking on it. You know, I'd forgotten about that. As someone who plays a minstrel, right-clicking on a target often doesn't do what, because there's no running into range for a ranged attack, because I don't have a ranged attack that is a bow. But good point. In key mappings, let's see. What is that one? You know, I remember it being an option, but I don't remember what the name of that option is. Finian agrees default binding is X key. Excellent. I'm remembering it correctly. I just remembered that I hit it a lot and I didn't like it. So many options. One of the things I do like about this game, although it can be a little intimidating, is just how many options there are. Okay, so we have some references to buff window that we no longer need. And we can just say we have an anthem position, and we're going to show that anthem and show a border. That sounds great. Not sure what to do about the other ones yet, and that's okay. We can do it one part at a time. So let's come back into our functionality here. Toronto says, you think you need a YouTube video for it. Well, I'm sorry that wasn't an effective demonstration. In case it is helpful, options, key mapping, and search for target. You're looking for toggle target lock-on mode. And whatever that key is there, a lot of people say it's defaulting to X. You can use it to get yourself out of that lock-on mode. Give it a try. Okay. We have lost our function. There we go. Refresh effect display. So, in general, hiding it was just a question of calling a hide anthem. Well, we can do that. If the anthem is fixed, well, same thing. In fact, let's go ahead and borrow that effect name. No need to type that all a second time. Effect name equals effect : get name. That's straightforward enough. And let's come on in and say, well, we're going to lift that also. And then self hide anthem. And what do we have? Just the position. All right, anthem effect position. That might be enough for fixed anthems. Toronto says, what I want is to not push X each time to get out of it. Yeah, personally, I did not like that mode. So once I was no longer in the toggle target lock-on mode, I used the little red X in key mapping to say, don't let me do this anymore. So I'm no longer in the mode. No key will get me back into that mode. Now, if you like that mode sometimes, I would just personally move it further away from directly near every other button I press all the time. But for me, I never wanted it, so I just hit the red circle, and now I cannot go into that mode. Okay, so we have possibly done enough. LDLS, I rebounded to a completely different key. Yeah, I kept dragging stuff off of my toolbars, and so I wanted the quick slot bar lock and unlock to be far away from my normal hand position as well. So that's the plus button on my numpad now. Finian says, I hate that mode, as I usually hit the key at the worst time. I didn't even think to unbind it, but now I know what I'll be doing when I log on tonight. Awesome. I'm glad I was able to inspire you. Yeah, I am sure that mode has a purpose. I'm sure there's people out there who use it. It might be an accessibility concern where I don't know what I'm targeting. Okay, cool. Now I know what I'm targeting. Like, I totally can see why someone would find that useful. But that person is not me. No. Okay, so let's go ahead and reload this plugin and see if it works in fixed mode, because fixed mode is actually pretty simple. So if we come to Window and Fixed Anthems, we can see each of the anthems has its own specific spot to be in. So if I go ahead and activate an anthem, we can see the anthems are coming in. I didn't okay, phew, I didn't put my book on. And so that's cool. And now the question is, are they going to leave in that order as well? And while we answer that, I'm going to take some water. Apparently that camera mode makes Little Red Head dizzy, so they removed it from being bound to any key at all also. Yeah. You know, and thank the developers, that's an option to get rid of it. Maybe it would be a useful thing on a console where you don't have all the extra keys and mouse maneuverability. I don't know. Like, Lotro is not currently available on a console, of course, but maybe the developers included it as something that, oh, people find it useful in this other circumstance. Maybe it's useful here. I don't know. Like, it's one of those things where I'd love to see, like, the design documents that led to this feature being produced. Oh, anthems are disappearing. Awesome. Oh, interesting. Those borders are there. Oh, that's what they mean by borders. Okay, we probably want those borders to disappear. Cool. Now, what's going on here? We do hide anthem. What's up with the anthem border? Let's do a search for anthem border. We have hide all anthem borders. That's fun. All right, let's go take a look at that. That's just anthem effect border set visible. Okay, well, we'll just go ahead and crib from that code there. So when we're Anthem removing, we're going to go ahead and hide Anthem and Anthem effect border of that thing. We're going to go ahead and set that visible false. Yeah, let's give that a try. Lord Zach says, hey before, hello, welcome to chat. We're making progress. All right, let's take a look at these anthems. We can see we're getting those anthems and their borders. And once again, I'm regretting not putting a debug capability to say, you know what, anthems actually have a duration of 10 seconds. Neat. How hard would it be to do that? He says, covering the things he wants to be able to see. All right, show anthem, set duration. Oh, there we go. What if we just set the duration to be like 10? All right, in the meantime, the actual durations are almost up, and let's see if that border disappears with it. I don't know why that border is there, but it must be there for a reason. All right. Lovely. Off. Oh, okay, cool. Lord Zach says, progress is only allowed after book 3, chapter 11. Well, darn. Wait, which volume? That is an ambiguous chapter reference. Okay, so now we can see I put a little debug statement in here. Let's see what happens if I just say the duration of an anthem is 10 seconds. Oh, nice. So obviously the effect is going to still be on us. And that's actually something to care about, is what happens if we're told something is removed. Oh, of course, we're not removing it when the timer exhausts. That's not going to work after all. Never mind. We're removing it when the actual thing goes away. All right, so an actual debug functionality is going to require more effort. Lord Zach is just kidding. Okay, well, that's fair. Okay, so we have an understanding. I can see why this fixed thing exists, right? It's so easy. Anthems just come, they go. There's no positioning required. So even if you didn't want to use it, making it exist would have been super easy. There is a flaw with it. The icons at the very back of it are not consistent with the anthems that are currently in game. It's one of those things that's on my to-do list, right? It's in the back of my head. It's like, oh, maybe I could go fix that someday. But I never actually use the fixed mode. And so fixing the fixed mode is just not high on my list of priority. Lord Zach has started a new Runekeeper, and you're having some fun again. Awesome. Runekeeper has just had an exciting world-affecting thing happen last week. You may have heard of it. Or at least their satchels did. Okay, so we looked at how anthems were being placed and how anthems were being removed, and the fixed portion of that is now in place. So now it's just a question of how do we deal with anthems coming in and out in a standard mode. Let's see, standard, excellent. So this is the standard mode. This is the default way it looks, and it's actually my preference. I like the little, the curly bits on it, the blue bar at the top. It's great. Oh, good point, Elda. Just a moment. Elda points out that you might be able to see that there's a little border around my resonance stance, and it's just this little black and white border slowly creeping along. A few updates ago, the development team brought in a different, oh, where is it? Quick slots. Quick slot active animation. And the now default active animation looks like this. And I'm sure it's good for some people, but it doesn't work for me, and I'm super glad that they included a combo box to put it back into the visually quieter mode. So, oh, and yes, also for queued skills. So if you you can see it down here. Does it? Oh yeah. So if you are not satisfied with the current version that you're looking at, give the quick slot animation drop down a check and see if you like the other one better. Yeah, some characters I just don't notice it on because I have some alts that are like farming alts, and so they don't have an active skill like this. But for any of my alts that has some sort of active stance or skill that they're on login, I tend to change that right quick because I'm not used to that new version, and I really like the simple black and white border. Lord Zach would like the old character selection music back. Well, I suspect they're going to keep on changing things like that. Okay, we're back to the standard mode here. The standard mode shows 3 active anthems, which is normally enough for most minstrels. I would like to eventually add an option where it can kind of dynamically grow, because if you get a 4th anthem, it just sticks off the end here, and it's not aesthetically pleasing. But in the meantime, what we know is that we want the oldest anthem to be on the left. And in general, if we get an anthem, you know what I'm curious about is what happens if we get an anthem that we already had. Well, we still should have some debug statements here. So let's go ahead and add Anthem of War. I removed the debug statements. Let's go ahead and add those back in. What was I thinking? Never remove debug statements. All right. Let's go ahead and unload and reload that. I just realized my graphics might be still a little higher because I was doing some stuff the other day. And as pretty as this game is, I'm mostly looking at a text box. So I'm going to turn that down, see if my computer is happier because of it. Okay, so we have now some debug statements. So we're going to go ahead and use 3 major ballads to get quick access to an anthem. Awesome. Well, that's interesting. Why am I getting anthem removed? Oh, no. Wait, why? Hang on a second. Oh, of course. It was already active from before. It just wasn't on the... I'm so used to seeing anthems on MinstrelBuff UI, I forget that I can look at my character screen and see them. It's not great. Okay, so we're getting an effect removed with an ID. And we're going to be able to use that ID to say, is this the thing that was here? Awesome. But we're getting effect added first. And so this is something to think about, is we're going to get an Anthem of War. We already have an Anthem of War. And so we'll want to add the one, and then the other one gets removed. So we don't have to do anything special. We can just add the one, the other gets removed, slide things down. Okay, that's cool. Let's give that a try. In fact, this sounds very familiar to what we were doing with Ballads. So let me come back in, make this a little bit taller. For Ballads, what did we do in Buff Window? We added a helper function called Shift. Ballad Shift. And that was just moving things over. In fact, we just set effect to the effect 1 over, and then we counted on the fact that we were adding one to the end, and that's why we were shifting. Or we had added a 4th, and now we shifted so that there was just 1, 2, 3. Okay. So we'll probably want something similar for non-fixed anthems. But anthems are more complicated because they also have their timer bar. So let's go ahead and start with an Anthem Shift function and kind of see what that looks like. Let's go look and see how this is made. In a sort of a perfect world, there would be a single class that would handle both the effect display and the timer as a single unit. I'm guessing that's not what happened here. Nah, I shouldn't even say in a perfect world. That is a way to do it. It might present its own complications. But we have Anthem background. We have Anthem effect displays, borders. Okay. Anthem effect display, that's good. And the Anthem time control. So what we'll want to do when is add, this brings us back to this count, doesn't it? Because just thinking about it, if there's a 7th, that means, and that was on the theory that there are 6 actual possible anthems that you could have. In chat, Little Redhead says, I noticed the logon music on Legendary servers is different, or the logins, the character selection screen, is different from the other servers, the standard servers. And Lord says possibly Legendary servers use the original music. That would be a nice touch if the Legendary servers were using character selection music appropriate to the expansion. If so, kudos to the SSG developers. I didn't even think about that. Okay, so we have Anthem effect 0 through 6 and 0 through 6. So if we had a 7th one that was always hidden, then new ones could come in at the end, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or one past the end, and then we could slide everything down into more visible positions. Because some of the MinstrelBuffs, I want to say, no. Is there any that actually shows all 6? Well, there's that one. 3 fixed anthems, smaller anthems, no anthems, single line, 3 anthems bottom, 3 anthems top, small fixed, 1 line. Okay, I'm going to go out on a limb and say 6 is all that there ever were. But that means if we make a 7th time display, and if we make a 7th effect display and border, then we could maybe copy the contents down when we do the shift, and then whatever's in the 7th is just always hidden, so it doesn't matter. Now, we can kind of check our assumptions by saying, when do we iterate through these things? Okay, we can get that. All right, let's check out get Anthem effect display. You know what? We'll pause on digging in how bad of an idea this is, and just sort of move forward with the hopes that it's not a terrible idea. Okay, so with our shifting, oh, thanks, Little Redhead. There's cool plugins. I recommend them. So we have a Anthem Shift, and so we had those 2 bits. We have Anthem effect displays and Anthem time displays. You know what? I'm going to copy them together here, so I'll have to come back a second time. Great. Hey, we're halfway into the second hour of the stream. Looks like LOF is going to start another giveaway for 100 Lotro points. I recommend getting to a keyboard and typing !giveaway, all one word, to enter. And in around 10 minutes, LOF will close that giveaway and give those 100 points away. Awesome. Thanks, LOF. And that is, of course, a 15th anniversary Lotro celebration bonus for the community. Thanks for tuning in. Okay, so Anthem Shift. What we want to do is, for each of these things, we want to iterate through and just shift everything left by 1. So we can do for I equals 1. We could assume that they're the same length. I think that's a reasonable thing to do. So self.anthem effect displays. We're going to go ahead and iterate through that -1 do end. And in here, we'll go ahead and, oh, what does it even look like to copy these things? What is in these things? Oh, that's an effect display. Awesome. And we can do the same thing. So self.anthem effect display and we can do the same thing. Set effect of self.anthem effect displays I +1. Get effect. Not surprisingly, this looks very similar to what we did for the ballad effect. Same idea. Why don't you like that? Unexpected symbol. Yeah, that would do it. Okay. Great. Now, that takes care of the Anthem effect display, but the Anthem time display, what on earth is in that? We can see that's a timer control. Okay. Well, in timer control, which is a class in MinstrelBuffs, we have, I wonder how copyable this is. Ooh. Lord Zach says, I will let others win the 100 Lotro points. It's not significant for me. Well, that's very generous, Lord Zach. 100 Lotro points can get you 10 Mithril coins, or more. It can get you 1/20th of the way to a large crafting carryall. It's not insignificant to some people. Okay, so we have a question. Now, a thing that I am not great at in Lua is understanding when references matter. Which is to say, do you have to deep copy things? Can you shallow copy things? We're going to try just doing a shallow copy here and see what happens. So we're going to do self.anthem time displays I equals self anthem time displays I +1. I don't think that's a great idea, but I am curious to see what happens. Okay. Now, if this is the case, if we're just going to treat this like a first in, first out, and not worry too much about possibly altered durations, then we can look at the ballad added logic and do something very similar. In fact, I'm just going to copy everything here and then decide which pieces of it are useful. Okay, if all spaces are filled, well, it says all 3, but really it's all 6, isn't it? If all 6 spaces are filled, if the 6th is filled, then move 2 to 1, 3 to 2, etc. You know, I don't even agree with that logic anymore. Because we went ahead and made a partial, an empty bucket for things to go into. So, if all spaces are not filled, if the second or, yeah, no, the third or second is not filled, that's fine. Then put new effect there. I like it. Okay. Otherwise, put new Anthem in fake spot number 7. Then Anthem removal will shift it into shift it. That's fine. Let's claim that that is true. We'll see. All right. If you were not already aware, do be aware there's currently a giveaway running for 100 Lotro points. Go ahead and type !giveaway, all one word, if you would like to enter to win. Okay, so we have a next ballad effect place. Let's go ahead and get something similar for self.next anthem effect place. And we can go ahead and document this to say this is only in non-fixed mode. And I should say it's only used in non-fixed mode. Okay. So in those places where we are using next ballad effect place, let's take a look at that. So we had ballad added, yeah, and ballad removed. We'll get back to that. So anthem, position to insert, we're going to use self next anthem effect place. If it's less than or equal to 7, then, oh, you know, I'm not sure that was right. The less than or equal to 4. We'll have to come back to that. Is ballads less than or equal to 4 correct? Seems like it should be less than 4. Okay. Pin placed. Okay, so if next anthem effect place is less than 7, then we can go ahead and increment it by 1. Otherwise, and yes, this is one of those that this shouldn't be called. We're going to go ahead and do an Anthem Shift first to get stuff out of the way. And then we'll go ahead and insert in position number 7. Okay, and with that, we can do self show anthem with effect and position to insert. Or can we? Let's take a look at main and see, is that what was happening here? So anthem, if it's not, great, find a place, then show anthem. Yep, that was all, show anthem. So the real question is, what do we do in the removal? Now this might feel very similar to ballads. So ballad removed. Let's go ahead and copy the logic we had and see how we feel about that. All right, we have a self anthem shift. Just moving things one to the left. Oh, but, okay. Note, this is wrong. Need to check for... Yeah, no, it's just blatantly wrong because we could be doing things out of order. Okay, so what would the logic look like? Find the anthem that's being removed, shift everything to the right. Okay, so what if our shifting function, shift anthem, Anthem Shift. What if this took a parameter? And can we do default parameters in Lua? We might be able to. Effect ID equals 0. Well, it sure doesn't like that. I'm used to being able to do default function parameters. I think I'll check the internet. Lua, function parameter default value. All right, Stack Overflow. Is there a solution to my problem? Okay, so just don't pass a variable and get nil. Yeah, I could do that. Mineral Water is clamoring for a giveaway. Yes, we are nearing the end of the giveaway time. If you are interested in entering the giveaway for 100 Lotro points, go ahead and type !giveaway into chat there. And then Ella will close and draw that giveaway in about a minute. Okay, so we have a effect ID. If effect ID equals nil, then what? Really, I want it to be the first thing if there is a first thing, right? Well, that's fine. If effect ID is nil and self.anthem effect displays 1 get effect does not equal nil, then effect ID equals self.anthem effect displays. What I'm trying to do here is go ahead and just say, if we didn't get an ID, just use the ID of the first thing, and then everything should get shifted over like normal. Okay, so we have an effect. I remember effects having an ID. Let's pop back into the API and look at effect. Get ID. Great. All right, get ID. And then we can move on with that. And let's pretend we have an effect ID. So what we want to do is find the ID for that. So if we have local I equals 1, we can go ahead and do for a for. Oh, I wonder if that for statement can use a function local. We're going to find out. For I equals 1 to... Oh, you know what? We should know if Lua has the equivalent of a continue keyword. Lua loop continue keyword. A continue keyword lets you skip the current point in the loop. Why does Lua have no continue statement? Excellent question. Does it? Let's see. Little 5.1 or 5.2. We're using 5.1 though. Yeah, go to is a possibility. I was hoping not to. Oh, Little Water asks, does Lua have what? I'm trying to remember if Lua has a continue statement or something equivalent where you can skip the current iteration of a loop. But I think I'll be able to do it differently. So local found the effect equals false. If not found the effect and self.anthem effect displays I, really the same thing, get effect does not equal nil, and then order says only last, no continue. Also, LDLF has closed the giveaway and has drawn Ador Helm. And Ador Helm is in chat, so congratulations on your 100 Lotro points. If you are not familiar with it, you can go into the Lotro store in-game. And in the Lotro store is a redeem code button in the upper right. Click on that redeem code. Paste your code into the coupon code. Just copy paste it. Don't bother to try to type it. And hit apply. You'll get those Lotro points. In the meantime, let's see if there's a task carry-all in store. There is not. I continue to cry inside. Oh well. Lord Zach says, we have a similar Lotro point amount. Yeah, I complete lots of deeds, and that is part of it. Okay. So in this festival, don't forget this is the anniversary festival. You can get the Moria maps, and you can complete. Oops, wrong tab. You can complete Cartographile Moria. Where is it? Cartographile Moria. I believe you can get all 11 of those Moria maps here during the anniversary festival. For every character you complete that on, you get both a map of Moria and 10 Lotro points. So if you have, say, 12 to 14 characters, that's a lot of Lotro points. Pick them all up. Elva says, speaking of deeds, does Deed Tracker have an update for Yondershire? Yes, I've been dealing with some stuff in the background, but I have an update that's ready to get pushed out soon. It'll also have the level 130 legendary deeds and the new anniversary deeds as well. All right, self.anthem effect displays I get effect get ID equals effect ID. So what we did there is say we're going to check each one of the existing anthems to see are you matching that ID. So found the effect equals true. And then if we have found the effect, if found the effect is true, then we're going to go ahead and do these shifting things. And so once we've found the effect, we're just going to shift everything after that over by one and try that out. All right. Lord Zach says, I'll have to install Deed Tracker. Yes, I recommend it. It is rather close to my heart. I'm going to give you an example here. I happen to have a version of it cached off. That's the most recent one. And in Lord of the Rings Online, in your plugins folder, you can go ahead and place Cube plugins. Or I should say you can install Deed Tracker into your plugins folder. I highly recommend the plugin Compendium. Lunar Water has made an excellent tool that relieves a lot of the headache of installing plugins. I don't know where the tool is, but it is somewhere. Maybe it's still loading. There we go. So Lotro plugin Compendium, if you haven't used it, you can go ahead and add new plugins. You can update existing plugins. We can see one plugin here. It does not match the current version online. It's actually because it's newer. Usually that's only a problem that plugin developers have. Then once you've installed a plugin, you can press the green arrow in your plugin manager and then load that plugin. In this case, Deed Tracker. We can go ahead and pop it open and see that in Shire, we have the normal deeds of the Shire, and then we also have Yonder Shire, where you can complete the sites, quests, and slayers of the Shire for the deeds of the Yonder Shire meta, and also restore the quick post of Yonder Shire. Spoilers. So yes, Deed Tracker shows you deeds that you haven't started yet, even hidden deeds. So there are some spoilers to keep in mind there. Like, for instance, the faction is called the Yonder Watch, which I believe in the early releases it was the Yondershire Bounders, which I kind of liked the feel of more, but Yonder Watch is fine. I haven't actually done any of the Yondershire content yet. Also, if you're on a standard server, in your skirmishes, in your class, race, epic, race, and social, you'll also have 2 new anniversary instance deeds for a Flurry of Fireship, the Flurry of Fireworks, the Short Fuse Small Fellowship, and Fellowship. Lord Zach, does a Yondershire hibernate in winter? I don't know. I've never been there. Okay, so going back to our code, we have an Anthem Shift function that feels like it's doing a lot. This may end up being more effort than it's worth, but it goes through our current anthems, finds if there's a matching one, and then shifts stuff over. If there's no matching ID, then we're trying to remove something that's not there. Nothing should happen. I'm okay with that. And then, so anthem removed, we have find the anthem that's being removed, shift everything to the right. All right. We can self Anthem Shift the effect get ID because Anthem Shift takes an effect ID. Whoopsie, I made everything smaller. Okay. And then we have and then if the next anthem effect place is bigger than 1, we want to go ahead and knock that down, decrement it by 1. Okay. And then finally, what were they doing? Ballad effects hiding that one that was just done. All right, that's fair. Self. Oh, actually, we have a function, hide anthem. And we'll go ahead and hide that. Okay, well, that's a plausible function. Let's go ahead and reload MinstrelBuffs and see, is that anywhere close? Oh, hey. Left has fixed the update stuff. Oh, you needed the link. Luna Water has tried to do a giveaway. Unfortunately, I believe there were only 2 giveaways scheduled for this stream, but maybe there'll be more giveaway codes next week. I don't know. I don't know if giveaway codes and plugins really go hand in hand every week, but it is a special 15th anniversary celebration, so why not? Okay, so we have the possibility for anthems. I'm very curious if anything will work here. So let's go ahead and make an anthem. Hey, we have an anthem. Let's go ahead and use our cry of the chorus and get another anthem, and let's try to restart our Anthem of War. Ooh, hello. Now, that fourth spot is visible, and that's not awesome. And this is a part of that cloning process. But the anthem itself, not visible. Let's go ahead and take a look at hide anthem, because hide anthem should probably hide that timer as well. It does. Okay. Well, you got me. Well, we're about to lose our anthem of the something or another, composure. Let's see what happens there. Oh, this is like 99% great, and I am astonished that it seems to be working. I was just pulling code out of random places. Oh, okay. So the timers are not coming back. That's cool. That's something to look at. Okay. Okay. Issues. Timers are not being restarted on subsequent anthems. Timer number 4 is visible. Why? Okay. Oh. In chat, TD Growl says, if I can only have one plugin for Lotro, or anyone, feel free to chime in. If you could only have one plugin for Lotro, what would it be? Am I playing a minstrel? So before Deed Tracker was a thing, which primarily came out of the Bombadil server, because I was using the community spreadsheet for deed completion, and which had fallen a little bit out of being kept up to speed, but was the best thing that was available. I was using or seemed to be the best thing available. So I was using the community spreadsheet. I forget whose it was. What's their name? To kind of track my progress on Bombadil to say, where are we? And after Bombadil, I was like, maybe it's possible to have a plugin that can do this, right? If it's reasonably easy to update and blah, blah, blah. And so Deed Tracker became a thing. But if I had to go back to tracking this with an external tool, maybe I could. But MinstrelBuffs, man, it's so simple. And I've been spending so much time on this stream because most of the time I play a minstrel. And MinstrelBuffs really changed how I understand minstrels and how I play them. Of course, the cheating answer is to say that it would be possible to combine every plugin into a single mega plugin that you just load it and everything is there. It would take some work, obviously, but you could combine Titan Bar and Mini Raid and MinstrelBuff and Deed Tracker into one mega cube plugin, and Songbook, of course. That is not a good answer to the question, I think. So if I'm playing a minstrel, Deed Tracker is near and dear to my heart, but I think I would almost have to go MinstrelBuffs because I just can't. When that plugin is broken during the week because I was in the middle of fixing it during the stream, like this past week, I was like, do I have any anthems on? I don't know. How do I tell? I don't know if dependent is the right word, but I use it a lot. It's part of the standard minstrel UI for me. And if I was to play plain Lotro with no plugins, I would feel its loss, its absence deeply. Oh, Eldela says, those codes were what you had left over from Friday's stream. Well, thank you for spreading a few around here on this stream, Eldela. That's very nice of you. Chromite thinks buff bars. Fair enough. I do use buff monitor quite a lot as well because I can't tell which food I have on me, and I forget whether I have hope tokens or skulls or not. But those are like every so often kind of things. Those aren't every combat kind of things. I would have to get used to not having that. Oh, and Lord Zach would take the songbook, one of the songbooks. That's fair. Like that is, I don't want to say it's essential, but it makes doing coordinated music so much nicer. Cormite says BuffBars is configurable though, so it can replace MinstrelBuffs. Can it? I feel like I would have to do the same modifications to that I do here, which which is to say, when are your ballads going to expire? Because 9 seconds after you leave combat is just not the full story, and so I had to program logic into MinstrelBuffs to know. I mean, that's the big thing for me. Not just that I have these ballad bonuses, but when will they expire? Because if you get into combat, then if you stay in combat long enough, then they're good, and then you have another 9 seconds. But if you don't stay in combat long enough, then they don't kind of refresh, and it's a whole thing. So I would be interested, and just as an example, if we were to come in here to some sort of skirmish. Sure, attack it on. We'll bump it down a little bit so I don't die on stream too easily. Cormite says the problem with ballad expiration is that it's completely broken. I disagree. It is not broken, it is just not explained well. It works sometimes, and many times it'll expire immediately. So here's what's going on with ballads. Is that when you first enter combat, you're in combat, great. And as soon as you leave combat, a 9-second timer starts. For example, hang on, you gotta get out of combat here. Okay, there we go. So you get out of combat and a 9-second timer starts. And if you get back into combat before that timer expires, then you might get back into combat, but you have to stay in combat at least 5 seconds or until that timer would have expired. So if you had 3 seconds left on the timer, then you have to stay in for all of those 3 seconds. And then you have a new lease on life, as it were. A new, oh, I'm in resonance stance. No wonder. Sorry. And so, but we can see that 9-second timer is ticking down again. So if I got into combat and combat did not last very long, I ruined it. I took slightly too long. But if I get into combat and it doesn't last long enough to refresh the ballads, I'll get into combat, I'll get out of combat, and the ballads will expire right away. It's consistent, but it is not fully explained by the 9-second thing. So let me see if I can. There's just not enough enemies here. Hey, the skirmish is maybe the problem. Maybe I should have jumped into Compendium or something. All right, let's open this up real fast. So we can see that 9 seconds ticking down there. Okay, so get back in combat with this warg. And I'm still in combat, so the 9 seconds is going to refresh here. Oh, I'm advancing on my Zealots of Pain without Little Redhead. That's very sad. We're going to be out of sync. Okay. So, if you can get in and out of combat fast enough, yeah, there we go. We can replicate that. Where I got into combat, but I didn't stay in combat long enough for it to count, and the ballads went away. And this can be really frustrating in something like an epic battle where you're constantly getting in and out of combat. It'll seem like the ballads are just dropping off super fast. You get out of combat and they're gone. You get out of combat, they're gone. And that's what's happening is you're in combat, but not either long enough or at the moment that timer ticks past 0, which counts, right? And so that's the thing MinstrelBuffs has really helped me to realize is ballads are not broken at all if you understand the underlying logic of you have sort of a primary combat. Here, let me activate this. You have a primary combat, that is, you are not in combat, you haven't been in combat in at least 9 seconds, and you attack something. I'm going to go ahead and attack this counterattack here. So I attack that. That's what I call a primary combat. 9 seconds are on the clock. But if you get out of combat and then get back into combat, that's what I call a secondary combat. And you have to stay in that secondary combat either at least 5 seconds or until that that 9-second timer has fully expired. And so, yeah, like that's why I say when you look at ballads and they say expires if out of combat for 9 seconds, that is technically correct, but it is woefully incomplete. But the full explanation is not great. In fact, let me pop out of here. Sorry, Rangers of Estelin, you're on your own. So this was something that I posted in the MinstrelBuff plugin, I think. So if you're looking for a textual description of it, interface MinstrelBuffs. Let's go take a look at that. And it was actually with the out of combat timer. So this could be slightly off. Every once in a while things get out of sync, and I think it's just a difference between my client and the server, because the server controls when yeah, so the server dictates whether or not your ballads expire or not. Cormac says, it has to do with a mob dying when you were fighting maybe 2 mobs. You ballad to refresh it and both die. Boom, bug happens. Well, maybe. I will say this could be not the complete picture. There could definitely be variations that I don't have yet, but this covers maybe 90-95% of cases. And those cases where it doesn't seem to match visible behavior in the game could be just attributed to differences in timing between client and server kind of thing. So it's not some, I'm definitely interested in finding out if there's another edge case to the edge cases, but in general, that logic seems to flow. Let's see. So, has to do with mob dying when you're fighting maybe 2 mobs. And you ballad to refresh it and both die. Yeah, I'd be very interested in seeing a recording of what you're talking about. And of course, MinstrelBuff isn't perfect. It just, I find it very useful for having a sense of, are you in one of those primary combats? Are you in a secondary combat? And it does get out of sync every once in a while. And that out of sync could be a timing issue, or there could be something else going on. Absolutely. Oh, wow. It's actually slightly harder than I was thinking it was going to be. I mean, it's fine, but... Okay, so... Oh, one more. So, last thing dies, out of timer starts. And it lasted long enough where it was promoted into like a primary combat timer. Primary combat timer. Cormac says it happens often. I'd be very interested to see if how it looks in relation to this, which is trying to keep track of those various states for you. Oh, another thing. What I would warn you against is things like improved cry of the chorus, or if you've got your major ballad. Ella says I'm running a 6-person instant solo. Yeah, but I'm level 60. It should be fine. So if you activate major ballad or cry of the chorus before you get into combat, that's your primary timer now. Now the combat that you're about to get into, that's a secondary combat. And so if that secondary combat doesn't last long enough, then you can get out of combat. Like, you just did your cry of the chorus, you got into combat, you got out of combat, and your ballads can go away super fast. Chromite says, proper rotation for DPS Minstrel is to alternate between minor ballad and another skill. Absolutely, that is what I do, because the ballads will decrease the cooldown on your cries. But bear in mind, your ballad will last forever as long as you're in combat. It does not expire until you get out of combat. So if there's other things you want to do once you have 3 ballads and you've got your anthems up, yeah, do other things. The ballads are primarily useful in rotation because, in my view, because of that -1 second cry and call cooldown. But yeah, if I just activate 3 ballads here and stay in combat, they'll just stay forever. There's no cooldown on them until you get out of combat. Chromite says you get other things than the ballad bonuses. Can you refresh my memory what you mean? Because while the ballads are up, you get the stuff up here. And when it happens, you get the +5 tactical damage for 8 seconds. Yep. So doing that at least once every 8 seconds is definitely good. See, the 3% tactical damage, -1 power, +1% healing. Those are the sort of the standard bonuses I think of for the ballads, and then the temporary stuff, the -1 second cry and cooldown, and the +5 technical damage for 8 seconds. That's just one of those. Yeah, that's why you keep it in your rotation. But you can see I've been in combat for a while here. Ballads do not expire while you're in combat. Yep, I see the war suite. Oh, okay. So you are saying that you can stack multiples of them? That's excellent. Even more reason to have it in your rotation. Very good. I like it. So yeah, that's been my instinct, and I wouldn't say I'm a very good minstrel player, but I like doing minor ballad and then other things to keep the cooldowns for things like Cry of the Valor and Cry of the Wizards, to keep those reasonable. Awesome. Anyway, so Chromite, I'd be very interested to see what a reproduction of the bug you're talking about looks like if you're running MinstrelBuffs with the out of combat timer patch that I put out there, which will provide that bar at the bottom. And in general, I have found that covers most instances where things disappear. Not always, but most. Cool. Chromite points. That buff stacks up to 3 times. Awesome. Now, when I was making this, I had maybe close to level 100 character, and I just hung out in Dunlin, getting into and out of combats really fast, and playing around with it to try and nail down the timings for how long you had to stay in combat. What did it look like? What happens if you did Cry of the Chorus and then got into combat? What happens if you did a major ballad and then got into combat? And so that's all baked into the logic here, and you'll see it called out here in the ballad expiration. So I'd be very curious what you find that is different from this possibly incomplete explanation. But this was definitely way better for me, for my mental comprehension of how ballads work, than just after 9 seconds. Because obviously it's not just after 9 seconds. It is after 9 seconds unless A, B, C, and D. So that's what's up with the combat timer. I highly recommend playing around with it, and then if you can, maybe not even reliably, but if you can record some footage of ballads disappearing when not predicted by here, by the MinstrelBuff plugin, that'd be very cool to have. Cool. Well, I have skated right past the 2-hour point. Chromite says, anyhow, my point is I'm always weaving in minor ballad with almost every other skill, so the 9-second cooldown should always be up. But due to the bug, it just disappears sometimes. So you're saying you're in combat and your ballad disappears and you definitely did not hit a coda. Is that what you're saying? Because coda will wipe your ballads. That's the only time you can lose a ballad in combat. And admittedly, I don't play a lot of end game content, but I play Minstrel almost exclusively. And in general, if I'm in combat and I lost my ballads, it's because I accidentally hit coda, which will remove all the ballads. But other than that, I do not see Ballads disappearing ever, and I play Minstrel all the time. Oh, you say that when you get out of combat, there is no 9-second cooldown. Again, it depends on whether it was a primary or secondary combat, definitely. And it depends on whether you triggered that 9-second cooldown by using Cry of the Chorus or Major Ballad before getting into combat with the mobs. So if your first thing was to attack the mob, then you should definitely have a full 9 seconds after you're done with your current combat. And that is what I see when I play. But if you do any prep work, if you do Cry the Chorus, or if you do Major Ballad, and then you get into combat, yeah, if that combat doesn't last for a full 9 seconds, then you will see your ballads disappear right away. Chromite says it can happen right after my ballad, which should refresh. Nope, that is not how it works. Once you are in combat, you don't have a 9-second. You have 9 seconds from when you leave your primary combat, and if you get into combat, you have to stay into combat. A new combat, you have to stay into combat for at least 5 seconds for it to count. Otherwise, it does not count. So you can use Minor Ballad, and if you get out of combat fast enough, it does not refresh that 9-second timer. Or at least, whether or not that is a bug, it is consistent. Okay. Well, either way, I encourage you to check out the timer and see if that resolves any questions or if it just creates more questions, because absolutely, the logic might not be fully explained here. But this logic is pretty reproducible in-game. So I'll be curious to see what you say about that. That being said, we've skated well past the 2-hour mark here, and you already used the plugin? Okay, then I would very much like to see some recordings of what's going on so that we can make the plugin match the game logic better. All right, so obviously MinstrelBuffs isn't quite there. We have timers not being restarted on subsequent anthems, and timer number 4 was visible. But in general, we are seeing that anthems in non-fixed mode are getting put out here. And that's excellent. And we'll get those timers restarted. And then we will be done kind of shifting over from a complete redo every time any effect is added or removed to only caring about ballads and anthems specifically. And then we'll get to look at edge cases, like what happens if you do a coda or maybe mounted combat. And then we can take a look at that. Although Treebeard won't get mounted combat for like a year, so I'll have to duck over to Evernight to play around with that. Okay. That being said, I think that's everything we're going to cover today. I believe this is the last Tuesday of the month, so be sure to check out Shoreless Skies' monthly Beneath Your Feet later today at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Lotro plugins with some bonus giveaways from Eldolith. I do hope to... Oh yes, Eldolith has put in next Shoreless is tonight. Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me. This was lovely. Thanks for the discussion. Chromite, I'd love to hear back from you on how to reproduce these issues more. But in the meantime, I hope to see you all next week. And until then, keep plugging along. All right, bye-bye now.